On this episode of Soldier Tech Battlefield, we're going to be talking BioShock Infinite. And I have a special guest in the house to talk about one of the best games of the year, maybe of all time. So let's go and start the show. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm your host, Mark Watson, otherwise known as Soldier Knows Best, and this is another episode of Soldier Tech Battlefield. Now, today we're going to be talking about BioShock Infinite, which is one of the best games I personally played. I have a special guest in the house, a game connoisseur, Anthony Carboni, man. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now I know you played through BioShock, and you're a gamer at the heart, at the core of your heart here. What do you think of BioShock? Just in one word, could you sum it up? What do you think about BioShock?
As a series or Infinite?
BioShock Infinite.
Oh man, Infinite is an incredibly beautiful game. Infinite has completely raised the bar for narrative and storytelling and character in games, I think. And it's a competent shooter. It's like,
Well, I think you can probably forgive the shooting. Just about everything else in the game is almost close to perfect. Now talking about the storyline, now the storyline really, I guess, approached
Mm-hmm.
racism and really touched some really sensitive subjects. But I think they did a really good job at portraying that in this game and throughout the entire storyline. What are your thoughts about the story in general?
Oh my gosh, so good. I mean, the first BioShock was like this too, where they have these historical touchstones and these sort of philosophical touchstones and these narratives where, like, in the first one it was like objectivism and it was sort of Cold War-ish. In this one it's this sort of like post-Civil War secessionism sort of vibe, and they just got everything so right. And I think more than in the first BioShock, you really care about the characters. Whereas like in the first BioShock, you are sort of a faceless guy for a reason. There's a story reason you don't care about yourself. In this one, you really feel like Booker is a person and Elizabeth is a person.
But promise me that if it comes to it, you will not let him take me back.
I just absolutely loved it. And just the pacing too, that whole first hour, I don't know how much we want to get into like spoilers here. I don't want to like ruin anything for anybody, but
I think you'd be good with the early parts of the game, yeah, so you can go for it.
Okay, so that first hour where you get into Colombia and you're like walking around, you're like watching hummingbirds in gardens.
I stood there for about 30 seconds watching that doggone hummingbird,
Right.
to be honest with you.
I'm just sitting there, I'm watching this hummingbird, and at the same time, like, I'm listening to people in the background sort of idolizing, making like a religious figure out of George Washington, and I'm like, okay, this is a little weird, but it's real pretty here.
Yeah.
And I love it, and you're like walking, and just children playing in the streets, and it's this beautiful floating city, and then you get to the raffle, and I don't think I've ever been more affected in a video game by a single moment than I was during the raffle.
One negative thing I could take from this game, I wish it just gave you more of those options, those scenarios where you had to choose, and those decisions that you made really have repercussions in the game and with the characters. But I think that's something just nitpicking. Other than that, the rest of the game was absolutely awesome. We talk about the environment, and I was able to walk around, and again, every single person I saw while walking through this game, I actually went up to them face to face just to see if they were going to say something or what type of interaction they were going to do. What about the visuals? Now, what did you play BioShock Infinite on? What Xbox or computer?
Yeah, I played it on the Xbox, and then I looked at a good portion of it on the PC later. And I have to say, either way you go, if you're somebody who games on a console, this is going to be an incredibly beautiful game for you. If you are somebody who games on a PC, this is going to be an incredibly beautiful game for you. And I think the reason for that is it's more about art direction than pushing the technical side. It's a game with kind of like a timeless look. When a game has a really strong sensibility, when a game has a really strong visual style to it, as opposed to just trying to push the most polygons or whatever, you wind up with a game that doesn't have to lean so much on technology and winds up kind of, I think 5 years from now, we'll be able to look back at BioShock Infinite and be like, this is still a beautiful game. Whereas like a lot of games now where it's just like, whoa, look at this, it's amazing. They're writing technology so much, you're gonna look back and be like, you remember when we thought that game looked really, really good? But the lighting is unbelievable. The character animations, man, Elizabeth just feels so real, you know?
Yeah. And the voice acting, I mean, it was, I remember talking about the lighting. I remember when I first walked out in the very beginning of the game, you saw the sunlight for the first time. I actually squinted my eyes.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm playing on my PC, I'm really close, but I was squinting my eyes like I was actually the character walking out. And that was, I mean, again, that's just one of those experiences that this game is able to produce, and just with the lighting itself.
Yeah, I mean, best lighting, I think, best use of lighting. And what's nice is, like, this is built on the Unreal 3 engine, right? And usually, when you see a game that's built on Unreal, you know, because you kind of look at it, and it's got those kind of, like, slow framey kind of character movements. It's got that texture pop in, that real bad Borderlands style texture pop in when you walk up. And the shadows are always those flickery, grainy shadows. And you can really tell, like, you can't tell off the bat that this is an Unreal 3 game. They really put a lot of love into reworking it and making the style fit the world. So I think that was amazing.
Oh yeah, you talk about, I think, 5+ years of development for this game. I mean, they really took their time with this game, and it just visually, I remember watching the trailer at E3 a couple years ago or so, and I was like, there's no way they're gonna be able to make a game in real time like this. And they were able to deliver on it. And I think when you look at the grand scheme of things, Anthony, when it comes to games, and again, you talk about a little bit about the impact this game is going to have on the industry itself. Where does this game stand amongst the type of experiences that you have with all the games you played of all time? I know that may be a hard question, but where would you rank this game?
So, I mean, yes, definitely. There were so many moments in this game that made my hair like just stand on end, you know what I mean? There were so many moments in this game. I mean, to think about Columbia, and you think about Rapture, and then you think about all other game worlds. Everything, so, you know, with the exception of like a few things that just sort of had memorable style to them, this one is definitely going to rank highly on my list for years and years.
At the end of the game, again, not trying to give away too much of it, things really turn, and you see, it's kind of hard to not say what happens and try to express how awesome it was, but you get those type of things where you were shocked, and it's not like the scary shock where something jumps out at the screen. It's really a turn in the story which really makes you kind of, you know, hold your breath to see what's going to happen next, and you really start thinking about, okay, what happened early in the game that led us to this point. And I just never played a game that had that type of experience, from visuals to combat, which was decent, of course, the action combat, but to the overall experience of just really getting the player to feel like, again, like you said, they're in the world themselves and living this experience just like the characters. It was just, I mean, this game was just a beautiful game overall.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hallmark of the series, right? Is you think about the first BioShock and you think about Would You Kindly, and you're never gonna forget Would You Kindly. There's not like a one single moment or single second that everything turns on that way, but they managed to put so many more powerful moments all along the way.
But I would definitely put this game in my top 5. I'm kind of wanting to say top 3, but definitely in the top 5 of my list of all-time games I played. Are you willing to make that same type of statement? Where do you put this game in your top?
I kind of am, but you know, there's a reason why every time you ask me that, I'm going back to story and world and character, because I mean, you play a lot of shooters. I know you do.
Yeah.
I feel like from System Shock to BioShock Infinite, a lot of things in terms of actual gameplay got dumbed down a little.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have to. I think you should play this game on hard. You know, I mean, it was, you know, the medium difficulty was okay, or normal difficulties, but I think you actually have to play it on hard to really get a challenge out of the action.
You know, in the first BioShock and in the System Shock series, there were a lot of different kind of side things, like little side mechanics too, like things like hacking, things like surveillance camera stuff, things like, you know, upgrading and things. Even the plasmids, even though there are vigors here, even the plasmids in BioShock sort of felt a little more complex and felt a little more like they belonged in the story. I feel like as the series has gone on, Ken Levine has cared more and more about making this emotional story and kind of raising the level of narrative in games. And kind of like, all right, if it's still a good enough shooter, we'll still put it out. It's still good enough, you know?
Yeah.
Because it just felt kind of weird to me to be in this amazingly designed world where you're making all these choices and people feel so real, and walk into a room and have the doors lock and shoot 80 guys to get out of the room. Like, I feel like when you raise narrative that high, if you don't raise gameplay to match, the gameplay seems just a little weaker. You know what I mean? Because Booker is such a real person to me, the fact that Booker is making such limited combat choices feels a little off to me.
Yeah.
But by no means is it a bad shooter. By no means is it incompetent.
And I think the skyline, using the rail system around the world is pretty good. Again, if you really didn't use it that much until probably later on in the game a little bit, but I thought that was pretty good as far as adding a different level to the combat when you get on the harder difficulties.
Yeah, it's cool. The rail stuff and the tear stuff too, where you can kind of like choose what you want to appear. I would have loved to have seen that stuff get a little more strategic. Like once again, I'm just kind of nitpicking here for the sake of being a critic, you know what I mean, and being critical. But I would have loved to have seen the tears be a little more strategic. Like maybe you got to open tears in a certain order, or maybe opening the wrong tear is actually going to cause a lot of trouble for you in the wrong room, But I never really saw anything like that. And you get this feeling that after 5 years of development, they were like, it's go time. It's time to put this game out. We can't work on this anymore. Don't worry, the story is perfect, and that's what it's about, Yeah.
Oh, I can only imagine one more year of development with this game. I'll probably just want to marry it. But Anthony, man, well, thanks, man. I mean, to everybody out there who hasn't played this game, you definitely have to play it. It's one of those games that you may not even be a fan of the series. You may not have never played any of the other BioShock games, but this is one of those games that I think everybody needs to experience. I finally got my brother to play it, so hopefully he'll have the same type of experience. But any last words about the game, Anthony?
No, absolutely. I think you said it just right. It's definitely, whether it winds up standing up for years and years and being one of your top 5 of all time, it's definitely going to be one of the best game worlds you've ever run around in up until now, and that's totally worth buying and picking up.
There it is, guys. If you don't buy this game, you're stupid. I hate to say it, but you're stupid. but anyway, guys, Anthony, man, thanks for coming on. Where can everybody catch you and catch your content?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can see me doing stuff over at Rev3 Games. That's youtube.com/Rev3 Games. And then doing daily science stuff over at DNews. So that's youtube.com/DNews.
All right, again, Anthony, thanks, man.
Thank you,
I
man.
will see all you guys next week, but I want you to leave a comment down below what you think about BioShock Infinite and the discussion that we had. I know a lot of you have already played it. I want to hear your thoughts. And also, if you want to see something else on the show, let us know down below. And thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next week. Peace.